welcome to the group meeting for the container security group at GitLab. Alexander, I think you've got our first item, demo per usual.
Yeah, the work for the operational vulnerabilities has started and is quite underway. We have, if you go to staging, and I think it's all of staging, and go to any vulnerability report in the project group and instance level, you will see our new operational vulnerabilities tab. Woo! It's quite empty right now, but it's a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, great work on that. I'm really looking forward to seeing that take place. It's nice to see that in staging. Today's agenda is pretty short. I did want to formally put this item through planning breakdown, display container scanning packages in GitLab's dependency list. We've got Will Meek here on, who's from the secure side and helps with their end-to-end tests. The idea here is just to basically take what we've got in container scanning and add all of the container scanning packages that are on the image into the dependency list. So right now it only includes application dependencies. It doesn't have any system dependencies in that list. And to provide a full SBOM or complete list of all of the dependencies that are used by an application, obviously you would want to have those system dependencies included in that list as well. So we're actually not changing any columns here. We're not changing the front end for this really at all, almost. There may be some very, very small front end work, but it's going to be minimal if there's anything at all. For the most part, we're just populating it with information about all of the packages that come from the operating system. So just to share my screen for a real quick walkthrough, let's see if this works. Hopefully you're able to see the right screen there. So the only difference, so you can see here in this screenshot, there are a whole bunch of the existing application dependencies in this list. We're not able to pull license information right now, so that'll just be a blank dash. The component will obviously be the package with the version, just matching the same format that's already here. For packager, we're actually going to list the operating system and its version with the package manager in parentheses. And I think actually right now we're just assuming this based off of the operating system, but that's probably okay for an MVC. It's going to be right nearly all of the time unless they've gone to, some pretty extensive lengths to change their package manager. And then lastly, for the location, we're going to fill this column with the image name itself, with a path to that image name. And usually those are really long, so they'll just be truncated here with ellipses. And Alexander, that might be the one small piece involving front-end work. I don't know. Linking to this and truncating it, I'm guessing that there might be a little bit of front-end work required. Again, I don't know, maybe it just already works that way today by default, but that would be the one front-end piece, if anything, to do here.
Sounds good.
Are there any questions on that? All right, if not, I will move this on to refinement. I think Tiago's already done a proof of concept that has this like 90% done. So the remaining work is just to get those columns with the right information in there and formatted the right way, but we are really close to actually shipping this thing, I think. So I'll move it to refinement and we'll move it on through the process.
Yeah, Tiago pretty much did all the backend stuff already. There are a couple of things I think we still need to do. We should create a new CI/CD job in the dependency scanning template probably. And we should refactor the PLC so that it's more maintainable. We'll probably just leave it in the container scanning project, but I think it needs to go in its own container image. So we should, build a separate image just for that scanner.
Yeah, let's see. So the one downside of doing that is every time we have a new image and a new, would it be run as part of the dependency scanning job then, or would we spin up a whole new image? Is the other question I would have off of that, I guess, first to clarify.
Yeah, I guess we could reuse the Trivia image that we already have. Yeah, I was thinking about how we had separate images for Trivia and Gripe. And I was thinking we might want to do the same thing for Trivia dependency scanning, but we can probably use the existing Trivia image.
It would be nice to reuse if possible. I know like some of the other groups have had a lot of different images that they've spun up, and then it becomes a lot to maintain. It also is costly, not only to GitLab, but also to our customers. Like every time we have a new job, it takes like a full minute just to pull the image and spin it up and start it up before you start executing the code. So if there's a way to just do this as part of something else that's already running, that would be ideal. It's not a hard requirement, but you know, that would be nice if we can minimize the time it takes to run. Any other questions, comments on that? All right. I did want to chat just briefly, and I just barely tacked this onto the agenda, so I apologize for not putting that on sooner. But it just occurred to me I should probably call out, like, this is step one in a number of steps that are coming. We don't have epics defined for all of these steps yet, just because it's not really clear what our iteration path is to get to where we want to go. But I thought it worth mentioning just to discuss our end goal for container scanning here for a minute. Where we're headed with this, moving these packages into adding them to the dependency list is really just one piece in a larger set of steps. By storing the packages in GitLab, that's one part in allowing us to run container scanning outside of a pipeline. And I'm assuming Tiago's probably talked about this idea with most of everyone, but I think it might be worth just bringing everybody onto the same page here. So if we store the packages that are in a given image inside of GitLab, and we associate that somehow with a hash of the image or some sort of pointer to the image itself, then all we really need to do is load up a vulnerability database, and we can run that scan asynchronously, you know, separately from actually loading up the full image and running a full job. We can run that outside of a pipeline. You know, to my earlier point, running Trivia itself takes a number of seconds, whereas actually running the container scanning job takes around a minute, just because you have to pull the image, you have to start up the image, and then you can actually start the Trivia scan. So it takes a long time before you're able to start scanning. If we can cut that down to a number of seconds, that's really powerful because it lets us use that container scanning job in more places than we can today. For example, we can start doing that automatically when users push to their registry. We also can start, you know, when we do move container scanning down to core, what I would really like to do is enable it by default for everybody across all of GitLab. And if we were to do that today, if we enabled it by default, we would get a lot of pushback because it's going to use their CI minutes. It's going to take a long time. And it's actually going to cost GitLab quite a lot of money as well, because we're going to have to pay for all of that execution time. And, you know, we have all of the data transfer costs as well in and out of Google Cloud to pull down the image. So the end goal of all of this is to be able to run container scanning quickly outside of a pipeline so that we can turn it on by default for all of our users. So again, we're iterating our way there. This is really just the first step towards that end goal. So with that in mind, I did want to actually just verify with the way we're doing it and with Tiago's template, are we able to store, like, are we storing this associated with the image itself that it came from, a hash of the image or a pointer to the image, or are we in some way associating these packages, these dependencies with a particular image?
Could you rephrase your question? So how are we associating the vulnerabilities with what?
So with the image that they came from would be the question. Because eventually we want to say, you know, here's this image. We know this image hasn't changed, so we know that it still has these same dependencies. And if someone pushes a new update to that image, now we know that image has changed, and so we need to go rescan it and get a new list of dependencies. So is there any way that we can say, you know, this list of dependencies matches this image exactly, and as long as we know the hash of that image hasn't changed, then we can assume that these are the same dependencies that exist in that upstream image.
Right. So right now, it doesn't really work that way. So I understand what you're saying. Like you want to be able to detect changes in the image and like only run a scan if the image has changed, right?
Right, yeah, I mean, that's our end goal, right? So not for this immediate iteration, but ideally we'd be storing it with some sort of unique identifier for that purpose.
Let me write this down.
Sure.
Sorry for my noisy keyboard. So right now we just run the scan every time, and then Alan probably knows this better than me, but I believe we use the location fingerprint to determine if it's the same vulnerability or not. And I think the location fingerprint has the operating system, the image name without the tag, right? And I think there's one more part that I don't remember.
There's a package name as well in package version. If you're talking about like single vulnerability. But yeah, we're not storing any like checksum for the image. We are just storing like the name of it and without the tag, as you said. So we just need to improve that. We need to have more information so we can easily like pinpoint that. Otherwise, as for now, we cannot do that.
Okay, that's a good clarification. I was hoping we would get this, and this is part of why all those epics haven't been created yet, because like I said, I'm not quite sure what all the iteration path is, but if that's not included in part of this, I'll probably create a new epic then to start tracking that, some sort of unique identifier, so that we can say, you know, okay, here this image with this hash maps to these dependencies. If we see that this hash changed, then we know that those dependencies no longer match with that image, and we're going to have to rescan.
Yeah, containers have this checksum. I think it's called the container ID, something like that. But that's used to determine whether or not an image has changed by the registry. So if you push the same image to the registry twice, it won't overwrite unless the image has been changed. And it uses a checksum to do that. So we could do the same thing with dependency scanning.
Yeah, I mean, and in the spirit of reducing time, right, we could first check that checksum and say, if we already have dependencies for that given checksum, then we don't need to update those dependencies as part of the job, because we already have the up-to-date information. If it's different, then we know we do need to go update them.
Right.
Okay, I will create that as a separate follow-on epic then. So as not to confuse the two.
So Alan, do you know if we have a way to run like background jobs without a CI/CD pipeline? I think there's workers or something that we could use.
Yeah, there are cron workers that can use, like we can schedule something Like usually everything that is happening, GitLab is through pipeline. So definitely that will be something new. But we're doing this for many other things, like cron jobs, like every few minutes we're running some workers. So I believe there is a way to do it. We just need to see if that's optimal, or we need to find for a better solution because it will not really perform well. So that's it.
All right, yeah, good considerations. Thanks for the discussion here. Are there any other things that we need to discuss today? All right, thanks everyone. Have a great week.
Bye, friends.